The biggest mistake that people often make, they set goals, but they don't actually set the plan to make the goal happen. What are 3 things that I can do right now to start moving towards that goal? That New Year's resolution that you put in place, girl, you know that that is not going to last past mid-January. Hey, beautiful. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Wellness Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Amber Shaw. Thanks for being with me today. I always say that with such a huge smile on my face because every time I sit down behind the mic, I'm so humbled that I even have one person who actually gives a shit about what I'm talking about. So I'm glad you're here. And look, here we are, y'all. Here we are, just 2 days away from the new year. But listen, before we all dive into, because I do it too, dive into resolutions and vision boards and all the things, I want to just stop and pause for just a minute because there's one big mistake that I do not want you making as we step into 2025. It's really easy to kind of fall into the trap of believing that come January 1, like that January 1 is like this magical starting line for everything in our lives to change. But I got to tell you, and I think maybe some of you may realize this, without the right approach to the new year, that New Year's motivation, right? That New Year's resolution that you put in place, girl, you know that that is not going to last past mid-January, right? We all know like how many of us, and I say this just from my own experience, like how many times I have made all of these resolutions, all of these things that I'm going to do. And by like mid-January, or even like February 1st, like there's a fall into the wayside. And this is what I'm talking about. It's not that making commitment to change and resolutions and all of these things are not a positive thing. They are. They can be, and they are. But it's when you approach it in the right way. So I'm not saying all this to discourage you. Just hang on, just hang with me for a minute. I really want to say this just so that we can set you up for success. So let's kind of talk a little bit about then, like why January 1st? Because I want to give you some tips and kind of a new way of approaching January 1 so that you really are successful with your goals. So, the truth is that the problem with January 1st is it's not just the date, right? It's more so like the mindset that we attach to it, right? This mindset, this magical mindset that come January 1, everything is going to change because basically like a fresh calendar, right, equals fresh habits. And that's not always true. In fact, most of the time, a lot of the habits that we set into motion or a lot of the changes that we want to do come January 1, we just get too damn aggressive with them. And they're not really realistic for our lives. And so we don't end up sticking to them. Perfect example of this. And I know, God, so many of you women listening to this, I know this is me guilty for years when I was coaching in the fat loss space for years. I talked about this all the time, but it was like such a common pitfall for people, including myself, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, is we just want to like go big or go home. And it's like, okay, let's just say it's like, okay, I'm going to get to the gym and I'm going to start working out every day and I'm going to start eating right. Or I'm not going to drink for the month of January. And like, all of these things, which again, I'm not saying that these aren't positive things to implement into your life, but if we're really interested in having sustainable change, then we have to approach these changes in a sustainable way, right? And making changes that are doable, that we can be consistent with, because that's really going to last. The other kind of pitfall that we fall into with January resolutions is motivation. we get going in January 1. I mean, or how many times has this been true? Like if you like started a new diet or started a new, like maybe it's a course that you signed up for, like what, like, or whatever that is, whatever that resolution is, or whatever that change is. And like, you're all amped up, right? Maybe you bit off more than you could chew and you're all amped up in the beginning, but then like something happens, right? Like life gets in the way, or you have an off day where your motivation isn't so high. And then before you know it, it's like you've kind of fallen off the wagon. And it's because the truth is that motivation can feel exciting at first, right? But motivation can fade. And motivation also, I think, is it's a dangerous thing to rely on when you're trying to make change, because motivation can change like the wind, right? Depending on, how you're feeling emotionally, depending on what, circumstances are going on around you, those can deeply affect your motivation. But if you're really wanting real change, you need more than motivation. You need discipline, right? You need habits in place that actually work for your life. You need a plan. I always say, like, the difference between somebody who really achieves their goals and somebody who doesn't, it's not about waiting. It's not about motivation, right? It's about discipline. It's about getting up and doing the damn thing, even when you're not motivated to do it. That's what discipline is. And that's where change happens. Right. And so, really, we want to talk about, and what I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about is this idea of like, okay, how do you then, if you really want to take advantage of the momentum that can happen with the energetic momentum for making change in the new year? I'm not saying that you shouldn't jump on that, but let's approach it in a more, systematic way, and in a way that is a little bit more doable for your life, so that you can be consistent with it, right? So let's talk about some of these goals, though, right? Let's talk about making goals and setting goals for yourself that are actually doable. The biggest mistake that people often make is that they set goals, but they don't actually set the plan to make the goal happen. Again, kind of going back to I will actually give you an example that I use right now with clients who are getting their online coaching business set up. For a lot of the women that I work with who are just getting their coaching business going, one of the most daunting parts of growing an online business. It doesn't have to be, though, just so you know. But one of the most daunting parts that can feel overwhelming without a plan, without a strategy, is social media. Is really starting, especially if you're somebody who's starting this as a side hustle, which so many of my clients do. So that's how I broke into the online space. I was working a full-time job. And if you don't have, it's one thing to like set a goal of like, okay, I'm going to post 5 times this week or whatever. But listen, if you don't actually have a strategic plan in place where you like block off time on your calendar to maybe record some B-roll, maybe when the kids go to bed, you sit down and write like one or two captions for the week. Like if you don't have a time where you're actually scheduling it out, well, then the goal of getting the 5 times a week posting, it's worthless, right? Or even talking about, a lot of people have some exercise goals as we head into the new year. And it's one thing to like set the goal of, okay, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to get to the gym, 5 days this week, or even if it's 3 days this week. But girl, if you don't have a plan on how you're going to do that, then it's not going to happen. And really, if you don't have a plan on how to consistently make it happen, then it's not going to consistently happen, right? Perfect example is like going back to the 5 a.m. thing, right? You set the alarm for 5 a.m. and the first couple times you do it, like you're committed, you're doing it, like you're amped, like boom, no, nothing stopping you from getting up, and you do it, right? And you do it for a couple times. But if you're not focusing on making sure you've got good habits to get your ass in bed the night before, well, then sooner than later, you're not going to get enough sleep because you didn't really have a good plan in place to get your butt to bed the night before. Stop the scrolling, shut the lights down, get to bed. You're going to be tired and your motivation's going to be a little bit worn off. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to press snooze and you're not going to go. right? So if we're talking about setting goals, it is about really equally, I think, if not more important than just setting the goal, is like, what's the plan on how you're actually going to achieve that? And make it tangible and literally, think about it and map it out, right? Map out the process on how you are going to make that happen, right? And you could start small. Like, what are, again, I was when I was coaching in the health and wellness space, I would always tell clients, and this is also true for women who are building out a business. It's like, make small steps, right? Like, you don't have to, especially with the like content creation, let's say, using that example, like, you don't have to do your entire month's worth of content in one day. Maybe we just break it down into smaller pieces, right? Maybe one day you just you've got a folder on your phone where it's like for B-roll. You just record some B-roll and just put that away in your folder, right? That's just like one step you do that day. You don't have to sit down and create 10 pieces of content in one day. Bite-size pieces. If you're trying to, if you have a goal of working out in the morning, like, maybe just in the beginning, like, don't focus as heavily on just trying to go to the gym in the morning, but really focus on nailing your night routine so that you're set up for success the very next day. So I want to share with you something that I call the 3-3 method for really being able to take action, right? Really being, it's kind of a simple hack for being able to set some goals and being able to actually put some action behind it. So I want to keep it really simple. I want you to go ahead, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, like, let's write this down. Let's actually do this. I want you to take your top goal for 2025, and I want you to ask yourself, like, what are 3 things that I can do right now to start moving towards that goal? What are 3 things that I can do right now to start moving towards that goal? Okay. So some examples, like, maybe for a health goal, if it's like, okay, 3 things, if you've got some health goals, what are 3 things that you can start doing to move towards that goal? Well, maybe you could start focusing on just getting 100 grams of protein a day. That's actually a pretty good base number for most women, as a good baseline to start out at, right? You can work your way up, but just start 100 grams of protein a day, maybe getting 7,500 to 10,000 steps in, and maybe prep 1 healthy meal a day. Those are 3 things that you can start doing towards some health goals. Maybe if you've got some financial goals, maybe 3 things that you can start doing. In fact, I talk a lot about these 3 types of things to start getting a hold of your money, which is review your budget. Girl, you got to know where your numbers are, right? Maybe set a savings goal, right? Or maybe like unsubscribe from some unnecessary expenses. That could be an easy thing, right? My personal fave for this is maybe sit down and think of some other streams of revenue, like starting a side hustle. And just shameless plug, if you ever have thought about starting a side hustle and you're a divorced mom, but you just don't necessarily, you'd like some inspo on what you could coach on, I actually have a freebie called 100 Niches for the Divorced Mom. I'll put that in the show notes. You guys can access that. It's a little free guide. But those are some things that you could do if you've got some financial goals. If your goal is for some personal growth in the new year, maybe some just very simple things you can do. 3 things: read 10 pages of a book every day, journal about your goals, right? Or maybe even schedule a little bit of time for a new hobby. That could be one. If you've got some career goals, right? Maybe dedicate 30 days to learning a new skill or pitching yourself to new clients, or maybe do 1 social media post a day for your business account. Or maybe sign up for a workshop, a mastermind. Maybe there's a course that will help you get closer to your career goals. There's always something that you can be doing to get you a little bit closer to your goal. Now, After you complete those 3 things, like, just keep it moving forward. What are 3 more things, right? Keep building on this. Like, you could just focus on, because I know sometimes change can feel really overwhelming. We can do, like, all the things at once, and this is why this doesn't last. This is why it's not sustainable, and so this is why I say the 3 3. Focus, maybe pick 3 goals and focus on 3 things, or just even pick 1 goal. Pick 1 goal, focus on 3 things. When you feel like you've got some momentum going with those things, and those things are just a habit, right? They're just now a part of what you do. Then it's time to add 3 more things. I always just get to ask the questions like, well, how do I know when it's time to add more goals? Well, when the goals that you're working on are no longer a goal and they're just a part of what you do, they're just a part of your lifestyle, they're just a part of how you operate, then it's time to add more things. Right. So I know for me, who it can kind of be like a balls to the wall, go big, go home kind of gal, this 3 3 method has been really, really helpful for me in just maintaining longevity and sustainability and consistency with my goals. So I highly, highly recommend giving that a go. Now, I got to tell you, if you are somebody that has some personal growth goals, some financial goals, or some career goals for 2025, maybe you are a divorced mom who has been curious. You've been listening to my episodes. You've been thinking to yourself, God, I never even thought that I could become an online coach, but maybe you're starting to see the light after all that I have been sharing with you guys of what's possible. So if you have some goals and you're curious, the easiest step and action that you can take right now is to join me in my upcoming workshop coming in mid-January. This is my workshop called Divorced to Dollars. Divorced to Dollars. This is going to be a 2-part workshop, I believe, taking place the 21st and 23rd of January. And in this workshop, I'm going to be sharing with you my exact step-by-step approach that I would take as a newly divorced mom who wanted to start her own online coaching business from scratch. I'm talking no followers, no experience, nothing to sell, no confidence that you're even supposed to be coaching, not even a clue on where you're supposed to start. Like, this is the workshop where I really want you to just learn to really find yourself again and really step into the power of creating financial stability and creating an online coaching business. I always talk about this is the thing that really catapulted me to financial stability and also healing post divorce. So in this workshop, I am going to be sharing with you. I'm giving it all to you. I mean, just how do you actually do this from scratch? And if you've ever attended any of my workshops, you know that I am a no fluff kind of girl. I give you actionable and doable strategies, and that really, really can move the needle for you. Now, this is an absolutely free workshop, so you do not want to miss this. I got to tell you, even if you've ever been remotely curious of if you're even capable of starting a side hustle or even maybe eventually a full-time coaching business, you want to attend this workshop because I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to get started with your coaching business. Even with your starting with from scratch and you have no idea where to start, I'm going to share with you how to identify your ideal client and really figure out exactly what you can offer clients who need your help. I'm also going to be breaking down the exact process that I've used to not only create a profitable coaching business from scratch after my divorce, but also help women just like you create thriving coaching businesses. So, we're also going to dive into some confidence, how to really rebuild your confidence and overcome the fear that's been holding you back from starting and really stepping into your power as a coach. And lastly, I'm going to be giving you the simple blueprint for creating your first coaching offer so that you can start selling and marketing yourself today. You don't need to wait for everything to be perfect. I'm going to be breaking all of this down along with some really easy, actionable steps to get you going. So you don't want to miss this free workshop, Divorced to Dollars. You can just grab the link for the show notes. I'll grab the link in the show notes and make sure you sign up. So Happy New Year. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope this was helpful and I'm really excited to just see what goals you've got set for 2025. I'd love for you to just drop me a message over on Instagram, share them with me. Let's get some accountability in place and let's kick off this new year 2025 with a bang, my dear. Thanks for listening, my beauty, and I'll catch you on the next one.